these three paintings in front of me again. They're the same ones as I was working on in the last few videos I've been doing. They just got a bit more paint on them, they've got quite a bit more collage on them, so yeah, I just thought I'd do a little bit of extra work on these. I'm just trying to pull out some of the energy and the marks and just having a real good play around with them, throwing the paint on, not worrying too much about where they're going still. And I think that is an issue sometimes when you're working, is that you, particularly when a painting's been going on for a while, you kind of think, you know, is it ever going to get finished? You know, why is this painting just going round and round in circles? But I kind of love that, really. I do love that open-ended way of working, that, you know, when I'm putting the paint on, you know, I don't have to worry about where it's going to end up. When I do have an idea in my mind that I want these three paintings to be a bit brighter than they are at the moment, so I've changed them a bit, I'm trying to brighten them up a bit, keep them a bit lighter, get some more of these sort of really intense some of this intense blue sky going. Haven't quite managed it yet, but I'll work on these three together. I mean, I've already done a little bit of work on them this morning, which is why I've got more paint on them the last time you saw them, maybe. But I like that. I like to, you know, be working on some paintings in a series like this. And they can change from week to week. I think it's quite useful sometimes to think about the work that you're doing in a slightly, you know, not so linear a way, that just because you started something off in one way doesn't mean it has to end up there. It can change direction, a bit more intense. I think I'll work on this one, it's got a bit less going on it. I quite like some of this at the moment. I want to push this a bit further, this one, and to see if I can get this kind of feeling on. Yeah, so I think that's quite a, you know, it's a good thing to remember, you know, just because something starts in one direction, it doesn't mean it has to continue forever in that direction. And having the flexibility to just change what you're doing, go off somewhere else. I might leave the lightness of that, let it dry off a little bit, work on this other one for a little while. Let's have a go over here. Obviously, as you know, I like to work in a series. I find 3 is pretty good. It's a good number to be working on, 3. It's very manageable. And it means I can take the... Let's grab a different pencil. And it means I can take the ideas from one to another, carry them through. Stops me getting bogged down in one painting. It certainly helps me to keep a kind of playfulness in the paintings. Also, you know, I like to switch my tools around all the time. Just do a little bit with this brush and a little bit with the knife. Throw a bit of pencil mark in there. It keeps it very lively, which is really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that airy, spacious liveliness. The composition, I talked about composition in a video I did last time. I'll put the link up just above me here, so you can have a look at that one if you haven't seen it. But I was talking about composition in abstraction, and when I'm working like this, I mean, at this stage, I'm not worrying too much about the composition. I really want to try and get the atmosphere in first. That's really what I'm working on at the moment. I've got this idea in my head that I want these to be airy and light, spacious. And it's those sorts of things that I'm focusing on at the moment. But composition is important, because it doesn't matter how much nice paint you put on and how good the paint surface is or how interesting it is. If it's just doesn't hang together as a composition, if your eye is not led around the image and it's very disparate, maybe there's a bit here that's nice and a bit here that's nice and a bit here that's nice, but they don't actually join up and make a coherent painting. And it doesn't matter how good your marks are or whatever, then the image is going to feel unsatisfying. But at the moment, I'm just trying to focus on not just the surface and the superficial things, but the feeling really, getting that sense of, like I say, light, space, airiness. I'm really focusing on those words, and I think that can be really handy sometimes to have these kind of key words to focus on when you're working. You know, those are the things that I want in this painting: brightness, airiness, space, light, colour. And the composition, hopefully, over time, will begin to evolve and have a coherence and a sense of rhythm. And I think that's very important, particularly in work that you might call abstract or semi-abstract, or certainly non-representational, I suppose, not literal. I think composition is so important to have that sense of movement and the rhythm that sort of binds it together and stops it just being a collection of nice marks. I think so often there's this idea that when something isn't literal, and it's this term abstract is bandied around a lot. Oh, it's a bit abstract, isn't it? That there's a sense that it doesn't mean anything, it doesn't have a purpose. And I think it's the absolute opposite. I think you have to be more concerned with composition, more concerned with the meaning of the painting if you're not working in a literal way. Because when somebody looks at it, if it's not a literal interpretation of something, or a photographic interpretation in some sort of way, then it's going to be harder for somebody else to get a hold of it, get a sense of what you're trying to do. So in some ways you have to be more concerned with the composition and have a lot of purpose in the work that you're doing. But even so, not everyone's going to get it, so that's okay. Don't worry about that. You're never going to please everybody. I think that's probably the most important lesson you could possibly learn. You're never going to please everyone. So, firstly, try and please yourself. That's a good place to start. It's got a bit of a way to go, this one. That previous one was working quite nicely. This one's got a bit further to go, which is, why I like working on these separate boards. It stops them getting over precious. I think there's some good things in here, and I'd like to try and get that onto this other one. So I might leave this one to the side for a minute and just use it as not as a template as such, but just so I can look at the things that are going on that I like, try and recreate some of those things in these other pieces of work, and then I'll feel more comfortable about going in and wrecking this one, because I might have it on these others. So yeah, I think all three of these have moved on a little bit. I don't want to overdo it. I'm just going to let them dry off a little bit, see how they get on. And I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you on the next one.